Welcome back to Plastic Paddies / Therapy Thursdays. We're back in your ears with episode number 3. Can you believe we've done 3? I feel like it's gone really fast. We only do once a month, but it feels like it's flying by. So welcome back. This episode is a part 2 episode. If you listened to our last month's episode, which I hope you did, it was part 1, and the topic was love. L-O-V-E, love.
We love love.
We do indeed.
And we love the sunshine, the summer in London.
It's a very nice sunny day here today. And I know, I've said this on a podcast before, I know everybody thinks where they live in the summer is the best place, but London is the best in the summer.
Although I do love going home to Ireland.
Yeah.
The Irish countryside is fantastic in the summer.
So yeah, I'm going to just kind of reintroduce what Therapy Thursdays is, just in case anybody that's listening to this one, it's your first time listening. Do go back and listen to the others, they're really good, I promise you. I didn't say Cade me the Vulture either.
Cade me the Vulture
to you all. But basically, Therapy Thursdays is kind of a special segment of the Plastic Paddies podcast, and I'd say it's dedicated to kind of delving a little bit deeper into matters of the mind, the soul, and we want to kind of share our experiences on here and create a kind of community of people that, you know, might be going through things or have been through things and just maybe want a little bit of insight, a little bit of a different perspective, and we want to do this all while kind of asking ourselves what the Irish lens of all of these not issues or problems, but you know, all of these, what's a good word, Patricia,
well, everything within our human existence, basically.
There you go.
Everything within our human existence, our experiences within our human existence.
That's
how
the perfect way to
say
put it. I think that's
and
the perfect
starting
way.
Conversations, and so anything we talk about, if you have a take on it, or if you have an opinion, or you have comments, or want to say something or ask a question, please do. So it's about opening conversations and us having a conversation here, hoping to help you to maybe think a bit deeper, and as a coach that's facilitating deeper thinking.
Absolutely. So we want to really kind of nurture our minds and build a strong, empowered community, I would say, together. So yes, welcome back.
Bravo.
Anybody who is listening for the first time may not know who this wonderful lady sitting next to me is. This is Patricia Ahern. So Patricia, could you please give any new listeners or watchers a little introduction to yourself?
Patricia Ahern, mental fitness coach, positive intelligence basically, and talking about what you were saying, emotions, feelings, starting conversations. As a mental fitness coach, deal with emotional awareness, being aware of what's helping us in our life, what's hindering us. Mental fitness defined as the capacity to deal with life's problems or challenges, experiences, with a positive rather than negative mindset. So positive intelligence is really about getting into that positive mindset, which we all have. It's just which has more power in our worlds. The positive or the negative, basically, because both of them are required. It's just finding out that inside out journey of finding out which has more power in your life and what is debilitating and what can help you. So that's a bit of what I help people to do, is to get to know themselves better. And also there's an element of self-love, to love ourselves, and self-love is a lot of the basis of what I do in the journey. And so today we're talking part 2, love, and we've done the survey and everything, so we'll delve more into that. So yeah.
We will indeed. So as I said, this is part 2 of love. The other one was pretty long, so we decided to split it up because it's, you know, it's a big old subject. Yeah, it is.
Huge subject.
There's a lot to say about it, and you know, it means something different to lots of different people. So we've done 2 parts.
And I got 59 responses to the survey, and we'll tell a little bit more about that later, very soon. But I was wondering, last week I defined love as in from Brené Brown's huge amount of years of research around emotions and feelings, and it might be helpful to say that definition
Yeah,
again? Share that definition
what
again.
The definition of love is according to Brené Brown.
So Brené Brown, after years of research, we cultivate love when we allow our most vulnerable and powerful selves to be deeply seen and known, and when we honor the spiritual connection that grows from that offering with trust, respect, kindness, and affection. Love is not something we give or get. It is something that we nurture and grow, a connection that can be cultivated between two people only when it exists within each one of them. We can love others only as much as we love ourselves. And she goes on to say, shame, blame, disrespect, betrayal, and withholding of affection damages the roots from which love grows. Love can survive these injuries only if they're acknowledged, healed, and rare. And I think that pretty sums up, and also the words that came up in our survey. But I love that overall definition, because love is such a huge subject and so diverse. And I'll go into a bit of conversation I had around the surveys as well with people who completed it. So, and it's really opened my eyes as well, having those conversations, and that's what we're here to do, is to open conversations and get people thinking basically about it and how it applies in their life, in our life. And
that's a lovely definition. I love that definition of love. So last month, we focused a lot on romantic love. We went through the survey that Patricia did last month in the last episode, and we spoke about a lot of the words that came up, biggest one being probably being unconditional. We had a conversation around what unconditional love means, and the conversation ended up just by chance focusing on romantic love and unconditional love in the context of a romantic relationship. So this month I really wanted to focus on sort of familial love, platonic love, and self-love. And we're going to go back to the survey and think about how the words that people brought up relate to those kinds of love. And before we do that, Patricia, I'm going to ask you, what do any of those things mean to you? Familial love, platonic love, self-love. I saw an amazing, I'll link it below actually, interview on, I think it was BBC, is it Women's Hour on BBC Radio 4? Is that the station that they have it on?
I don't know for sure.
I think it was BBC Radio 4, and it's Women's Hour, and this young actress, they talk about love, and this young actress did this amazing speech about platonic love, and she described it as kind of transformative, and really she was kind of saying that was the biggest kind of love that she'd had in her life, is the love between her and her friends, and when she's with them she feels like she can be anything and do anything, and she just admires them so much. It was really, really amazing. So my question to you is, what of these loves has played the biggest part in your life, or how have they played out in your life? What have platonic love and familial love meant to you through the years?
All of them really, but I love that when you said anybody that supports and encourages you authentically with basic human compassion is a great uplifting thing. And John O'Donoghue, a fantastic Irish poet, the late John O'Donoghue, he has a lovely book called Anam Cara, and it's words of wisdom, and it's so beautiful, and it's basically the Irish for Anam is soul and Cara is friend, and it's soulful friend. And it just reminded me of that, and it's so beautiful to find that soulful friend who you can be you with, because again, love is about belonging and fitting in, but they can be the opposite sides of the spectrum really.
Yeah.
We kind of put them together sometimes. Being who you are with no conditions, and that's where it goes back to when last week when we were talking about the unconditional purest. That's what I think is the purest form, is from soul to soul, and that connection is powerful and beautiful and empowering for us to be around. For me, it's been wonderful. I've had soulful friendships where you don't know yourself, but you know that somebody has faith in you in that way, and then you grow that faith within yourself. And family love, I mean, really, I have a big Irish family and they're great. And I know that there's always somebody there. You know, if I need them, there's always somebody there and they will be there, you know. So I've always felt I had the best of both worlds. I love London, I love the city life, even having grown up as a farmer's daughter on a farm, a dairy farm in Ireland, but being able to have both. But interestingly, in the survey, the most word that came up was family and friends. The second one was unconditional. 9 people had mentioned it, so we spoke about that last week. But the highest was family and friendship. Now 5 people said family, 7 people said friendship, so that's 12 in all. One said togetherness, one said unity, which implies, I think, other people as well, and one person said home, which again might imply friends and family, because where you feel at home. And that might not always, some people think, oh, that's with family where you grew up, but that's not always what people mean. Where you feel at home is where your soul is at home, where you feel not judged, no conditions, you just feel pure love. So I think family and friendship is high for people. And I think also there's a beautiful saying that says, friends are the family we choose for ourselves.
Yeah, that's very true.
So I love the way that kind of people, and 2 people in the survey mentioned a particular name. Now I must say one of them mentioned my name. I'm very grateful. 3 words. Oh, we forgot to actually mention, because we said the last time, the survey was 3 questions that you would put synonymously with love. So what 3 words would you associate with love? So yeah, unconditional came up, family came up, friends came up, respect, trust. Even in Brené Brown's definition, respect came up high, trust came up high, kindness came up high. And within the relationship, so like you said, romantic relationships, platonic, family, friends, all of that, and soulful. So friends are the family we choose for ourselves, and it can be very, again, empowering relationships. But I still, as a coach, and even now as a human being, I think the big line that catches me with the definition of the years of research from Brené Brown and her team is that we can only love ourselves, other people. We can only love other people as much as we love ourselves. So it's really about finding that true love within ourselves, that self-love, I think, for me, is the basis of all of this, no matter what element, what category you're talking about.
Self-love is the biggie, and we said that last time, and I would agree. And
I don't, that's why I said unconditional love last week was an interesting one for me, because I didn't even know it existed in a way. I grew up, when I first heard of unconditional love, I was like, tell me more. It intrigued me, it was interesting, what does that mean? And then realizing, oh my God, this is beautiful. Imagine, because if you grow up, or if you feel, even now, that you don't deserve love, that you've got to earn it, there's conditions somewhere, or in our minds, or in that environment we were in, something was laid down that made us believe that when we got love, we were worthy and valuable, and when we didn't, we weren't. So we go out looking for that love, that affection. But the fact is, I think we all deserve love no matter what is going on, and it's not to be earned from a basic human existence and experience level. Now it's complex and complicated, and I can hear people going, but some people are so difficult to love, and I think that it came because of their behavior and because of their actions. And I think it came up last month, that the people who are the hardest to love need the most love. And this is where the behaviors come in to what our thoughts are going on, what the emotions are going on. And yeah, it's quite a subject, really. It's quite deep as well. It can go deep because it's our perceptions of things. So for me, that unconditional love was a big thing. And I liked it, and I continued, and I now sitting here as a coach going, to me it's the purest form.
Yeah. So you mentioned before about self-love, and that is, I think, a massive. Did anybody say self-love on this survey?
No, actually nobody did. Now, interesting you say that, you asked that, because 2 people said selfless. Now,
selflessness, as in giving to other
one
people.
said selfless and one said selflessness, which are similar. But I would question that from my years as a coach and studying and reading about this. The question is, do you want something from somebody that's only half full in themselves or is not in themselves, or they don't feel worthy of something but they're giving it to somebody? Do you want it from that person, or do you want it from the person who's full of it? So instead of selfless, I would encourage people or invite people to think about, imagine changing that to self-full. So that I am full of self-love and then I give love. There's a big difference that I don't think I'm worthy of love, and the authenticity of the love that I'm giving if I'm not having it within myself.
It's that age old, you can't drink from an empty cup, can you? If your cup is overflowing, then you have abundance of love, then you can give it to other people, but you can't give what you don't have at the end of the day. And it's, if your cup is empty, you can't give anything to anybody else.
So I'd like to invite, as I said, the selfless, changing to self-full and see how that lands. And also from a giving and receiving, would you prefer to give or receive from the person who's full of something they're giving, or somebody who's depleted of something they're giving? I just wanted to share a little story. This is funny, and it's around this. So I took my first flight when I was about 17, 18. And I think this is kind of relevant here. So bear with me. So I'm on the plane and they're doing the whole, if something happens, this is what you do. And it said, make sure you put on your own oxygen mask before helping others or even children. And I remember thinking, no way, I would help the child. I mean, how could they? I remember there was something inside me really moved to like, this can't be. That will tell you how conditioned I was in a way to help others, that there was no other way, like I was not that important. And I had to think about this. And ever after, for a long time after, when I'd be on a flight, and this might sound unbelievable, but it's true. When I heard that, when I realized that this was true and this was real, I kind of had a lump in my throat or a tear at the back of my eye. Because it was my very first little drop or little seed of there's another way. That actually I sit there and I put on the mask and then I help the child or help the other people who can't. Because if I don't put on my own mask first, how can I can be there for the first person, maybe I can help, I can be there for the second and then the third and the fourth. No hope, I'm gone. So I think this relates to, and this is actually used quite a lot in the coaching world as an analogy, but for me, it's really personal because I took my first flight at 17, 18, and I remember, so when they used it in coaching, when I first heard it, I was like, oh my God, this is so true. When you're conditioned and you feel that you need to earn it and you're not worthy of something and you're giving, but it's from a selfless place, it's not truly authentic, and it can really lead to resentment and burnout and exhaustion, really, because we're not full, we're empty. And that emptiness can lead to, what about me? Because the other thing is, when you start that giving process from the selfless place, people tend to take. Because if you're not thinking of yourself, you're teaching others not to think of yourself. Do you know what I mean? So that can be taken for granted, and taken advantage of even. And then it can lead down a rabbit hole of resentment and going, what about me? What about me? But the question we have to ask ourselves is, what about me? So it's been quite a journey for me. And when I look back at that 17-year-old, 18-year-old, I've come a long way. And I suppose to the fact that I keep saying that the purest love is unconditional love. And I literally have had conversations since our one last month about when people had watched it, and they also felt that unconditional love was very family orientated. But I think we are very quick to generalize with regard to who we get unconditional love from, or who we don't, or who we might not, or who we might. We're human beings, and we're in this human existence, and we're experiencing everything from our mind, not from how it is on the outside. We perceive what's going on. So yeah, and people can express love verbally, but words can be quite just words.
And last month, anybody listening might remember that I said that I didn't believe in unconditional love, and I said at the end of the episode that I'd had my mind changed after hearing Patricia and Shauna. Oh, if you notice, Shauna's not here. I did announce that she's no longer doing the podcast, so just
and we miss her.
We haven't bumped her off, but they both did believe in unconditional love, and I was kind of like, I'm not buying it. And you saying that comment has just reminded me. I think I'm kind of going back to not believing in it, but I think it's not as black and white as there is unconditional love and there isn't unconditional love. I agree with what you just said. I think the only true and really unconditional love comes from family, because the reason I think that is because if somebody you're in a relationship with does something or is treating you a certain way, you break up with them. Or if a friendship is going badly, you call it a day. Family, well, listen, there are people out there who don't have a relationship with their family. We're very, very lucky in that we do. But I think the majority, and I'm generalizing here, but have that strong familial love. And I don't think it would ever just be a case of they're doing something I don't like, I'm not going to love them anymore. And I think that, so say for example a friendship is going bad or a relationship is going bad, and you break it off, I think that just because you still love them in your own self, I don't think that's love. I think love is an action. So I think if you're no longer together and you're not in action with love anymore, you're just over here no longer with that person, and you still feel love for them in your heart, that for me, this sounds negative, but I don't mean it to sound negative, but it doesn't really mean anything, because there's no action. You're not showing them that your love. They don't know about your love. It's just a feeling that you're having over here by yourself, and they're off somewhere else in the world. So I do agree that family.
But I think that, again, what I say as a coach, and in any conversations I have with people, and this is kind of culminated in 5 years of me studying and training and becoming a coach and practicing, the complexity of us. Like I said at the beginning, we're human beings. We have a human part and a being's part. I don't think, and the conversations I have with people, nobody's disagreed yet. If you're disagreeing, please let me know. Because I love conversations and I love talking to people about this. And people generally do like talking about it.
Yeah.
The human part of us, the physical part, the being part, spiritual part, you could say. There's a creator with whatever you believe in. If you believe in nothing, ashes to ashes, dust to dust, and there was nothing before and nothing after, everyone to their own. And we have this existence in this human body, and we have experiences in this existence. And there's a complexity to that. That's why the researchers like Mary Brown and people, and it's Socrates and Confucius and Buddha and all those greats, Aristotle, and the psychologists over the years have been researching, and will probably continue to do so because of the complexity of us. It's a very individual thing. So I know people who have broken ties with family because the love wasn't unconditional. And they couldn't keep up that outer, this is how I need to be, this I need to comply.
Kind of,
and that was their decision. It's a very, very difficult decision, and it's a last resort in a way. But you do have behaviors like narcissistic behaviors and tendencies where people decide that's the case. It's like divorcing. Can you divorce your family?
Yeah.
Like you said, going back to a partner, you can be in a relationship, you can break up. You can be in a marriage, you can break up. There was love there. The question is, what elements of love was in that relationship to make it strong enough to last the test of time? There was love, or how people saw the love in that relationship. They break up, they divorce, and then you're saying that, well, actually, 2 years later, then I might look at them or think about them, but in a different way.
Yeah.
But they're in another part of the world or whatever. But that's the complexity of the big thing. Is that's why the researchers are trying to find out what are the elements of love. Because if you want to meet your life partner, if you have those elements, you would have a maybe better chance of building that strong relationship that stands the test of time and the complexity of us, rather than the fickle, shallow, for example. And I have to bring up like Love Island, we were speaking earlier on, like the shallowness of, and people get addicted to it. It's like, you know, the words verbally, I love you, or you are so fantastic and you're the person I've been looking for. And then 5 minutes later, 15 minutes later, somebody else comes in and going, oh my God, they look lovely. What about them? And again, maybe out there, even talking to younger people and online dating, is that they're on all that. There's so much competition. It's like, maybe should I settle for this person because maybe something better comes along. But again, we're not trying to build something, or we don't have the elements that make something strong. So I think the complexity of us, the complexity of our existence, our human part of us, our body, our heart, our brain, the complexity of our being part, all of that makes it, that's why we're here, talking about a very juicy topic of love, from so many different angles, and how you can change your opinion from one to the next. And that's from deeper thinking. But there is no, I don't think there's ever any one true answer. And I know that some people have this, they have this desire or need, but be careful of needs that need to have fact and evidence to support how you think.
Yeah, I don't think you can quantify love. All of this research that people are doing, I don't think it's as quantifiable, and I don't think it's easy as saying, well, these are the elements of love, so just go out in your life and do this and you will have love in abundance. I don't think it's as easy as that.
I think you have love in abundance when you love yourself.
Yeah,
I really do believe that. And you'll always hear me coming back to self-love, and you might go, oh, it's the same old tune. But I do feel the abundance of love comes when we love ourselves.
but where do you learn self-love? So like, if when you're a child, for example, like you said, if our family and our friends, even at a young age, because I'm sure they're going through it with their own family, so all they know is to express what they've been shown. How do you learn self-love in a world that, as it stands now, I would say, love being conditional? When you're a kid and you grow up, you even said that this was your own personal experience of kind of learning subconsciously or consciously, whatever it was, that good behavior equals receiving love and bad behavior equals not receiving love.
A perception.
Yeah. So how do you learn self-love? If you're not, do you know what I mean? Because what I'm trying to say is we model love off of the love that we receive from a child. And if you're not receiving it, or if the love that you're receiving is conditional, where does the self-love come from? Is it just a journey you have to go on as you get older?
Yeah, it's a journey. But practice. You practice, like everything. How would you become a fantastic pianist? How would you become a fantastic tennis player? How would you become anything?
But what am I practicing? If I've never been given an example of what unconditional love looks like, how do I know how to unconditionally love myself? How do I practice that?
You practice self-compassion, self-kindness. You become aware of what's debilitating in your life. And the biggest thing that debilitates people, and it's universal, is the judge within us.
Yeah.
The inner critic, some people call it, that inner voice that tells us, that plays into the thoughts that we might have perceived as a child of, I'm not good enough.
Yeah.
And that was for me the big one. I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy enough. Everyone else is more important than me.
Yeah.
Their happiness is more important than mine. I can make do.
Yeah.
those are the thoughts. Underneath them, then they're fears. So the judge plays into that program, that story, that life script in transactional analysis by Eric Berne, that psychology theory, the life scripts that we as a child, because when we're growing up, and this is the complexity of the human existence, is that we're physically, our human body is forming. Within that, you've got the hormone systems, everything that's going on, growing in that. And then you have the emotional and spiritual and the cognitively developing. So while we're cognitively developing, we're very susceptible to when something's happening in our environment. It's not about what's happening, because you could have 3 people in the same environment and all 3 people remember things differently, because we don't see things as they are, we see things as we are. And there's a lot of complexity with regard to what else is going on and our other relationships. So for looking at that life script and that life story and chunking down to what's really going on, because that's very individual. For me, for example, it was the need for acceptance. I needed to feel accepted. There was a fear of rejection. So the pleaser mode that was running within me, the giving, over-giving from a selfless place, that I didn't matter, that somebody else's happiness was more important. The fear of rejection then. So the need was driving the pleaser mode.
Yeah.
So when I started realizing that I needed to change that story that I programmed in, that life script when I was growing up, that X equals Y, but it wasn't altogether the truth, you know. But it was a way of me feeling emotionally well or spiritually well, or, you know, in my child's mind dealing with this. I suppose I remember years ago, one of the first times, somebody close to me in my family, and having a conversation, and for the first time, like, discussing how I felt growing up. And this is 2 people from the same place, looking at things very differently. This is why we don't see things as they are, we see things as we are. But also somebody, you know, the kind of the hyper rational, in a way. That's another self-sabotaging mode, is that fact and evidence, needing fact and evidence. And I was kind of wearing my heart to my sleeve and just saying, this is how I felt, and this is what was happening then for me, and this is what in the end, it was like, the response was, I don't really understand that. I don't get that, because the books say, and the psychologists say. And I remember back then, I wouldn't now, but back then, I actually felt, again, it's the validations of feelings. I felt, and I remember kind of lashing out going, I have just told you my personal experience, shared such deep feelings around certain things. I don't really care what the books say. This is me. This is my individual thinking. No book I can relate to the book, but comparing an individual's experience to what somebody has written in a book or a psychology book or whatever. But again, right there, what's really going on is an invalidation of feelings. But if we don't validate our own feelings, people will trigger us.
So are you saying that self-love is, unfortunately, if you don't experience unconditional love growing up, self-love, unfortunately, is just going to have to be a journey that you come to later on in life?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, but you see, the thing about it is, even the people that we didn't perceive or feel that we got unconditional love from, it doesn't mean that their love wasn't unconditional. Do you know what I mean? It's how we perceived, because of behaviors and because of the actions. And as Brené Brown said, even in the definition, it's something that has to be nurtured and nourished.
So it's like 2 people have an agreement on what love is between them, and they both have to kind of stick to that agreement. Is that what you
not
think
really? I don't think
is?
It's agreement, and if it's an agreement, there can be conditions in itself. I don't think it's something that we necessarily need to talk about as such. We need to feel it. I think we feel the purest kind of love, which is unconditional love. But if we have to overanalyze it, and if you do all these things, that means you love me.
Yeah.
If you don't do some of those things, that means you don't love me. Why are you behaving like this? You say you love me, but you're not doing what I need to be loved. But we sometimes have a need to be loved in a certain way. It doesn't mean that somebody doesn't love us. It just means that they are not complying to the way we need to be loved. But my thing is that if we learn how to love ourselves, can you imagine the foundation of where we're coming from? Can you imagine having that self-love and then knowing that this is what I need, this is what I want, this is what's negotiable in the love relationship, and this is what's non-negotiable.
Yeah.
Because if somebody, it's like Gandhi said, nobody can disrespect you unless you allow them to, something like that. We allow people's behavior to treat us how we treat ourselves.
Yeah.
If I don't love myself, how am I going to help somebody to learn to know how to love me the way I want to be loved? And sometimes it just happens. People just click from soul to soul.
Yeah.
As you said, that soulful love, whether it be a platonic relationship, family relationship, romantic relationship, soulful love is soul to soul. There is a light that flows out of us and flows from the other person into us. That is pure. There is no agreed. There's no having to sit down and talk about it. However, if you're building a relationship with somebody and you want to set up house with them and be in close proximity with them, yes, this is what I need. This is what I want. How often do we sit down with somebody in any building of a relationship and go, okay, this is what I need out of a relationship, and it's not out of love, it's out of a relationship. Like we said last month, the conditions are on the relationship, not on the love between the two people. Now, if somebody says, well, I'm sorry, I can't be faithful, well, then you decide, actually, that won't work for me. I can't build a relationship with you. I love you, but I can't build a relationship with you because that's a non-negotiable for me. Whereas the other person says, well, and then, or I don't want any children. I'm sorry, I can't build a relationship with you because I want children. So then you make a mature, emotionally stable decision to go, well, we can't give each other what we need and want.
Yeah.
But if we don't know what we need and want, how can we portray that to somebody else?
Yeah.
How can I sit down and go, actually, I need this, this, and this, and I want this and this and this. This is negotiable, this is non-negotiable. And then in 2 months, I'm like, actually, I've changed my mind. Because I'm not coming from that emotional awareness, that emotional mental fitness. This is what it is. It's that knowing ourselves, loving ourselves. So we come from that place of a fantastic loving foundation where we can give and receive love authentically.
Yeah.
Because I said, I think last month, this was a huge realization in the last 5 years, 3 years even, and especially around narcissistic behavior, where sadly kids don't feel loved by a parent because the narcissistic behavior, it's me. And so I remember having a conversation with somebody about this and saying, like, what can I do for my daughter?
Yeah.
Like, this is so sad. She just feels not loved. And I said, sadly, it's not about her. Like, it's the parents' incapacity to love or to receive love. I'm talking about giving and receiving. Narcissistic behavior. They've lost the ability to receive or give love. So it's not about the child, and it's trying to help the child to understand. And I'm not a psychologist, and I don't specialize in narcissistic behavior. And there's loads of people out there that do. And I've actually have a huge. I like to listen to the information and stuff about it. But it's not about, we take it personally. This is where a child perceives there's something wrong with me because my parent is not showing me love or giving me love or doesn't love me. That's where the damage is done. But the parent, somewhere along their life, now whether it's nature or nurture, has never had the capacity or at some point in their life lost the ability to receive or give love.
Yeah.
But we can put it upon ourselves as children, thinking that, well, there's nothing wrong with my parent, there's something wrong with me. But in actual fact, it's more complex than that. So, but if I then don't know how to receive or give love myself, I will fall for the less than love. The less than love.
Yeah, it's just a repetitive cycle, isn't it? It's what you receive in childhood.
Yeah.
You believe that that's what you deserve, so you grow up. You don't know any better. You don't have the knowledge.
Better, yeah.
You know, you only know what you know.
But there is a cycle, because people never learn love. They don't think about love. They don't even believe in love, partly. There is that big age-old question: why does somebody who's abused in a relationship leave that relationship and go into another abusive relationship? Because it's about self-worth. If I continue the pattern of behavior, and I did that myself, that was what my life was made up of, patterns of behavior. And I was getting infuriated and angry at myself. Why am I making the same mistakes over and over again? Why? Because I wasn't learning from any of the situations. I was putting it out. The world was against me. I was fundamentally flawed. It was everybody else that was treating me like this. Why? Why are they treating me like this? I would find somebody to console me. I would feel sorry for myself. I would wallow, and I would always find somebody to console me. But I never really went inside to think, why am I repeating patterns of behavior? But it wasn't until I did that I learned from all of that, and I grew as a person from the inside out with that emotional, personal development and growth. So again, I remember a couple of years ago, I was at a conference, and again, it was around the psychology of the first time I've ever heard the term post-traumatic growth. And it hit me like the biggest surprise I ever got of like, whoa, because all we've ever heard of in this life is post-traumatic stress, PTSD, whatever. Post-traumatic growth. What a turnaround, that actually whatever trauma that we have from our experiences in life, we can actually learn from it and grow from it, rather than what I was doing for years is repeating patterns of behavior because I wasn't learning from anything. But as well, people were only loving me as much as I could love myself, and I didn't really love myself. They were treating me like I was treating myself, but I was peed off with them for treating me like that. But I was treating myself like that.
Yeah, and you don't even realise it. When you're in these habits, like I say, you can only do what you can do with what you have, the tools that you've been given, you know, as a young person. So, you know, often you don't even realise your own habits, which is why I think it is so important to try where you can to just have that little bit of self-awareness. Try and go, you know, into yourself a little bit more and recognise. I did it for years. I walked through my life with kind of like blinkers on, not knowing, not realising these patterns of self-destructive behaviour that I was in. So, and it's not easy to get out of. It's really, really, really not easy to get at. And I don't know if anybody will have read the book. I'll put it up on screen, but it's called Atomic Habits. I can't think off the top of my head who the author is, but he talks about the human brain and it being wired to take the path of least resistance, even in your small day-to-day habits, and also in, you know, your habits in your wider life, you know, bigger habits that have bigger impact. And that is what it is, you know, when you've only ever known one way, you sort of don't know that there are other options available to you. You don't see that there are other paths. So basically what I'm trying to say is it's not your fault if you're just going for doing the same behaviors all the time. You know, you've got really bad habits and you can't seem to see why, you know, what Patricia was just saying, why is this always happening to me? Why are people treating me this way? It's not your fault, but just try and get that little bit of introspection and just think to yourself, what can I do? I can't control everybody else's behaviour around me, but I can control my own behaviour. And just see if, what you can do to change, even if you just start off with tiny, small little things.
But one of those is the victim mode as well. I sometimes was pleaser mode. I've touched on the hyper-rational mode, the self-sabotaging, and the victim mode. It's always about the world is being done unto. It's a very debilitating, stuck mode to be in. There's no growth there. It comes from trauma for sure, but there's no growth. It's all about the stress. But we've had the coaching relationship with regard to the mental fitness and positive intelligence, because changing the habits is fantastic. And I cannot stress enough, in my life, the small things I've done consistently and persistently every day, those had the best long-term consequences and results and impacts positively. The big leap, the quick fix, the big things we do and go, oh, this is it, this is going to work, may have a short-term positive impact, but they don't always last long-term unless there's a neural pathway shift in the brain. So the small little things of habit changing, the atomic habits, is fantastic, but also realizing where and how the self-sabotaging behavior is running. And that's where the coaching program I do works, is those self-sabotaging modes, and this from the saboteurs, as we call them, one, the pleaser mode, the hyper-rational mode, the victim mode, and how they are debilitating our life. It's a self-exploration. It's exploring self from that. And again, it takes self-compassion, self-gentleness, kindness to self, patience, tolerance, all the things that came up in the survey, all those beautiful positive words that came up in the survey. We need to apply them to self.
Yeah.
This is where the secret lies. You apply them to yourself when you're going through that self-exploration. If you wish to post-traumatic growth, Gabor Mate, love him, love his work, love his talk about compassion, trauma, basically says we, as I say, in this human being, in this human existence, having human experiences, if we're not experiencing, we're not living really. We can wrap ourselves up in cotton wool and other people can, but really, are we living? And in all those experiences, we will feel pain, we will suffer, we will feel joy, we will feel love, we'll feel happiness, we will feel anguish, we will feel despair. We will feel all the range of emotions that are out there that people have been researching for years and years. They will be part of our human experience. Some of them will cause trauma, but it's still not what happens, and this is Gabor Mate's says, it's not what happens in front of us. It's what happens inside us because of what's happening in front of us. So two of us could see the same event and it can affect us inside completely different. Yeah. You're going, what are you going on about? And I could be really stressed and you could be going, calm down, what's it all about? But for me, what my senses, which are the gateway to the brain, are seeing and feeling and causing thoughts and emotions are a very different process than what's happening for you. And that's why we don't all see things the same. If there's an accident and the police ask everyone for their have an interview to what happened, you will get a thread that runs through the same, but the details will be different because this is very NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. We delete, we distort, and we generalize. That's to help us because the brain can only take in so much information and there's a huge amount going through our senses. So, all of those things that came up, and respect, love, happiness, joy, kindness, meaning, closeness, all of those practice. So to answer your question, it's practice. First of all, it's an emotional awareness, which I as a coach do and coaches do. It is the journey of self-awareness, because that is the key to change. That of what you're aware of, you can control. Potentially, you can manage. That of what you're not aware of can control you. The latter is autopilot. We're an autopilot because of the life scripts, the life stories that we programmed in as kids. We programmed in. We did that from the environment, from the people and the people who are around us. Now, that's not only family. That's family, school, teachers, in our institutions, religious or social networks, all has an impact. So it's not only simply what happens at home, it happens in the greater community. And we as a people running from the dawn of mankind, communities were built because we feel safer in communities. And in this human existence we live in, our instinct is to stay safe, protected, and survive. And we have an amazing, complex device within us that it's its job to do that, and that's the brain.
Yeah.
And I may never be a neuroscientist, never have a neuroscience degree, but I am fascinated. And my biggest thing in life as well is that journey. When I came to realize, and we'll probably talk about this in future episodes as well, about growing up in Ireland and how I felt about myself and school, and how I felt I wasn't brainy. I compared myself to a lot of people, other people. They were better than me, so I was less than. But I have a newfound passion, utmost respect, and trust for this brain alone, which for years I thought it was useless. I thought, I'm not brainy. That is practicing self-love as well. When we see ourselves for ourselves and we appreciate our body, we've touched on the self-deprecating, and I think in Ireland it is rife, where people give out about how they look, about everything. But again, what's feeding into that? Only social media and magazines and everyone looking airbrushed. I mean, we're in a cycle. This is a pattern, but self-deprecating. So when we really look at ourselves, not from an ego point of view, ego is dangerous. A certain amount of it, yeah, it can drive us to do things, but actually, I don't even think any amount of it. I think we need to be aware of it, that it's part of our human existence as well. But if it runs our life, it will never make us happy, because it goes from low self-esteem to cocky arrogance. And it's a line. It's a spectrum. And where you sit on that, there again, that's that balancing part in the middle. But really, the true essence of us is what we're loving. That no matter what we look like, and it's not about not looking after ourselves. My nephew said, well, I love to look good. And I'm like, oh my God, I encourage people to look good. I like to look good, and I like to have my lotions and potions. But really, when you nurture the inside out, everything else. Just saying, we talked about that Ronald Dahl saying last month as well, that you shine differently when you love yourself. But again, that respect, that trust for my brain, my heart, how much that does. And my body, it's a beautiful foundation. And that emotional awareness, that mental fitness, that resilience, because that's what it is. It's bouncing back when life throws you a curveball, which if you're living and you're grasping life with both hands and you're getting right stuck in there,
you definitely will have had a few curveballs.
A curveball, and it will be everything, because we cannot forget the amount of suffering in the world either. Because we come from this environment where things are, they're good overall, but there's still people sleeping on the streets, and they're not in a good shape physically or emotionally or spiritually. We have war-torn countries, we have refugees, we have, that with no sense of home, they're losing identity, they're not feeling belonging. Life is throwing them experiences that they don't necessarily have control over. But it goes back to Viktor Frankl and Man's Search for Meaning, another fantastic book I would recommend. Between every event and response, there's a gap, there's a pause. And that's where that pause, a gap, is where mental fitness is for me. That's where emotional awareness is. That's where choice is. And where there's choice, there's power. You choose. It's not about what you choose, even as a pleaser mode. If I say yes or no, that's my decision. It's not for somebody else to go, why are you saying yes to them all the time? I'm choosing. The difference is, if I'm on autopilot, there's no gap. Event, somebody asks me to do something, response, I say yes. And then I go, why did I do that? I haven't allowed myself that gap in between.
Yeah, and running on autopilot is it's difficult to even recognize that there's an issue. If this is just your life daily, it's really hard to recognize that something is wrong. But your body will let you know. If you can feel in your body when something isn't right, it might manifest itself in anxiety. It might manifest itself in depression. And I'm not knocking that these things are actual medical, ailments, and a lot of it happens chemically in the brain. That's not what I'm saying, but if you have bouts of depression or bouts of anxiety, listen to your body is what I'm trying to say. Just if you aren't aware consciously, if you're not consciously aware that something isn't right, your body will tell you. So just take a minute and try and tune into what your body's saying, and that's a good way to know if you're running on autopilot. And once you recognize that, things will start to unfold themselves. You will start to realize, oh, something isn't right. I'm not fit. Something is not right. And the more you go with it, things kind of just reveal themselves to you. You become self-awareness, like you said. It's just having that self-awareness and
you choose.
Yeah,
it's your choice. It's always your. This is where the compassion comes into it, and the diminishing judgment of self and others, criticism and blame. Those can create. So they are the enemies of love in a way, as the definition says. Because if I choose from that gap, from that pause, it's not for somebody else to judge me for that choice. We are all living in this experience. We all have, if you are religious, free will, or that power to choose. And it's not for anyone to and coaching is very much you are the expert in your own life. So it's about the choosing, you choosing, rather than even, there's a place for anger, there's a place for the negative emotions, there's a place for all of them.
Yeah.
But if you let it live within you, it'll do damage.
Yeah.
If you let it as a release and it's gone, fine. But if you let it feed within you, it will grow inside you, and like a volcano, it will erupt.
Yeah.
And a bit like I have wrote, obviously I didn't mention as well for anyone tuning in, I'm a writer and a poet basically, and a lot of my poetry is around the emotions and those kind of messages of inspiration and positivity within it. And I have written something about how those emotions, I was trying to suppress them within me, and I thought I was doing a great job, but every now and then they would explode, and then they would create self-judgment, self-critic would go crazy, guilt, shame that I had not been able to master the suppression of those emotions within me, because I thought that was the only way. But in actual fact, when they exploded like a volcano, which they are going to do, it would just feed in the same cycle of guilt, shame. I would beat myself up for having not been able to suppress them, and then it is a vicious cycle.
Yeah.
But again, there's a theory out there, there's a lovely book called The Body Says No. What you were saying there, like the brain sends messages. It's a fantastic device that's helped keep us safe, protected, and survive. It sends messages to the body. The book The Body Says No. It's when we stop listening to the messages, and this is where mindfulness and meditation comes in, that connection with our body. Like even sitting there, feeling your finger or your fingernail, or feeling the skin. Anything that brings you into your body and connects with it is a beautiful, powerful moment, and it can be 10 seconds, or it can be a minute, or it can 10 minutes. This is the practice part. Do little things every day consistently, and you will build up new habits, like in the book that you recommended, Atomic Habits, and that will sooner or later shift neural pathways. The neurons that fire together wire together, and they have done so in the past. But the brilliant thing about the brain is the plasticity, neuroplasticity. It's malleable, it changes, so we can shift where neural pathways reform, refire, and they wire together. And that's when we go, oh, I feel this is it. Yeah. I've changed.
Yeah.
And you're wondering, how did that happen? But it was subtly, and this is what I love about coaching as well. It can be a wonderful, subtle journey of little things you do, because we're not designed to be told that the little things you do make the better outcomes. We're told to quick fix, to do this, take that, and you will feel better. But you do, but it's short term.
Yeah.
And then then you go back to the old way, and then you beat yourself up and you fail, and then you're like, oh, and again feeling sorry. All of this, it's that cycle.
It's a cycle, it is.
And they do say, there's a theory out there that depression hits, especially when people move on. It's like that midlife crisis. Depression hits because we have stopped listening to the messages of our body. We haven't been listening, and sooner or later, our body, as a very intelligent makeup, says, okay, if you're not listening to me, boom, crisis. And then it just drops. And it's like, I love the when I heard that depression is like it's opening two doors. One has a stairs down and one has a stairs up. Which door are you going to go through?
Yeah.
And I remember going, oh my God, that's quite something. Because certain cycles of patterns of behavior will take you down and other things will take you up. But which is, like some people say, well, it's easier not to believe in myself than it is to believe in myself. I'm saying, why do you think that is? Because I have to take more action and do to believe in myself.
Again, it's the path of least resistance, isn't it? To stay where you already are. Because
the world out there is supplying me with an awful lot to stay where I am negatively or move down. Whereas you have to really go searching for that support and encouragement. And some people are very lucky. They have family, friends, and like you said about that lady on BBC Sound, talking about platonic, that beautiful relationships to support and encourage you and make you feel better than you believe you are, even with as much self-love and self-belief in you. Never underestimate the power of somebody alongside you that's rooting for you. I remember as a runner, a hill, and those people who left their homes that day to stand at the side, and they're like, clapping you on when you're going, I can't go anymore.
Yeah, anybody I know that's run any kind of race or a marathon has said, I don't think I could have got around the last leg, the last little bit, if it wasn't for the people there really cheering you on. It does make such a difference.
Yeah. The most I've done was a half marathon. Now I've never done a marathon. Yeah. But oh my God, even at those people who plonk themselves at hills, you are amazing people. I love you because, and I haven't ran for many years, but no matter what you're doing in life, those people on the sidelines that go, you could, but they see you're struggling. And even you hear voices going, you could do it, you could. The next thing your feet start running again. And it's like, yay. Oh, never underestimate the power of the positive words, a support, an encouragement, quote or words or anything. They are so empowering and igniting of that human desire within us to keep on our path that we want to go. But sadly, there's a lot out in the world of fear and negativity. And I know when 2018, when I left my job, I hate saying this, and I'm trying to think, is this true? Like, is this how I remember it? Is it true? I don't think there was anyone that said, what do you do it? Do it. Leave your job. I have faith in you. You. A lot of people, the majority, if not all, were saying, "Why are you leaving a job without another job?
Yeah.
What are you going to do?" I'm like, I don't know, but I can't stay here. And it's like, but. Sometimes people say you can't do something because they're talking about themselves. They don't feel they can do that particular thing, or there's something in their life they want to do but they can't, and we project onto others. And I remember my friend Marie, and I've told her this many times, I remember she was here and I said, I'm giving in my notice this weekend, and she went into the, but what if, and I went kind of in exasperation going, there's nothing you can say to me that I haven't already thought about 100 times in my head of all the reasons that I should stay. But I think I just need to go. And she went, go then and be an inspiration to all of us. And it was like she gave me that power. And I went, I will. And here I am 5 years later. And I'm doing okay. And I love my life. And I'm really enjoying the journey, because I talk about, people ask me where I'm at in business and in this and this. And I'm like, where am I at? I'm enjoying the journey. I'm enjoying the process of building something. And they kind of go, that's lovely. Because I could sit and go, well, I thought I'd be doing this now. I thought I'd be doing that. I wish I was doing this. But I'm not. I'm going, I feel like I'm on my path. I found my meaningfulness in life. I found the search for meaning, Viktor Frankl's book, beautiful book. I read it many years ago. And a few times, my purpose, my passion. And that to me is wonderful after so many years of that self-sabotaging loop of behavior, that cycle, and not knowing myself. So that journey has been delightful. And even if my life was to be over, whenever it is, none of us know when our life is over, a week or 6 months, or I feel that the fact that I'm going through this journey, that is the connection to something greater than me in life and serving people. And that's what I want to do. I want to help people, but from a self-full place, not like the old me who helped people from a selfless place, which then the old me became resentful sometimes because I felt I deserved something back. And this is the thing about if we don't feel we deserve something without we giving something and we earn something back. If we don't get what we think or believe that we should have earned back, we feel sad and even more disappointed. So helping people from that, I wish to serve. I wish to help people out there who want my help, because the other thing is there's no judgment, there's no push, there's no anything. When people are ready to move in life, they're ready. And sometimes we have lessons to learn. And it's not for anyone to say, again, the conditions, you should be here, you should be doing that. The response, the event and the response and the Viktor Frankl, the gap in between, the pause, is just that process of self-awareness and making a decision and coming off cycles of patterns of behavior and autopilot. And the journey of that, I cannot stress enough, is about gentleness, kindness to self, self-compassion, self-empathy, self-love, and it is a practice.
It is indeed.
It is starting. If you hear your inner voice beating yourself up or saying you're not good enough or you're stupid or you're silly, even in jest, even as a joke, and I'm Irish, I was the biggest joker. I would self-deprecate joking all day long. I stopped that many years ago in the last years of coaching, and it has enhanced my life. And it's not that I'm not funny anymore and I don't joke anymore. I just don't joke in a way of putting myself down. And I okayed that because it was a joke. And I said, but I'm only joking. But the brain doesn't know the difference really between negative and positive. The brain doesn't know that it's a joke or not. It just takes that information and it processes it through the body. And so the self-compassion in how we speak to ourselves and how we speak to others. And because the thing about it is, one of my mottos was, treat others as you'd like to be treated yourself. But in the end, I had to question how I was treating myself. Because it's a lovely phrase, and I don't know who said it, maybe one of the greats, Socrates or Aristotle. I've been saying it since I was so young, I can't remember. But I think that I had to, and I never said that before actually, that I had to confront how I was treating myself, really from a fundamental level, not from being kind to people and nice to people and doing for people. But if it's treat others how you wish to be treated yourself, how was I treating myself?
Yeah.
Because that could only enhance if I treated myself better.
Yeah, I agree. So lads, ultimately you should be getting, all of this stuff from family and friends. The people around you should be giving you all of these things. If they aren't, unfortunately, that is the case for many, if what you're receiving is conditional love, don't despair, because you can give it to yourself. Self-love is the cure and you've got it inside you. You just need to tune into yourself, tune into your body, listen to your body. It's telling you what you need to do for yourself.
Just I wanted to add to that, one of my missions in life now as a coach is to lift the stigma around mental health. Like you said, yeah, friends and family, support and encouragement from them, love and all of that. Yeah, we'd like to think that everyone's getting it. But there are a lot of people out there doing fantastic work, therapists, psychoanalysts, counselors, coaches, myself, if any, like I said at the beginning, if anyone has any questions or wants to get in contact, my website will be on the
in the
links.
Description below.
Sorry. But so you can get help with regard to the experiences in this human existence we live in. And I think there's still, even though it's got better, there's still a stigma around somebody asking for help. And I know myself, I had a fierce independence streak running within me, that if somebody gave me a self-help book in my 20s or early 30s, I would have said, no way. So it's funny, the journey I'm on now here, helping people. But that was coming from a very fear-based, negative, cynical, it was all external, the outer world. I had to find what I was looking for in the outer world, which is where we're driven towards. But when we're having experiences in life, there's nothing wrong with going to somebody and asking for help, and a professional. Because as I say to people, if I can't drive, can I teach you how to drive?
No.
Now, if I am not aware of my emotions, and if I'm not aware of what's driving me, triggering me, debilitating me, what's helping me in life, can I help other people?
Yeah.
And this is where we're at, in a way, with the people around us, that sometimes with the best of intentions and the best of love, people are trying to help people through difficult times, but they're not aware of themselves, and we project onto others like that. We think we know how they should be feeling, or what they should be doing, that advice. But we can only do that from where we're at, not where they're at. So seek help, ask for help, and there's lots out there, and speak to somebody, talk.
Yeah, I would agree, 100%. So, Patricia, you're going to read us a poem to close out.
I can do, yes, I would.
What's it called?
So I think with all of this, I had two, but I think this one, I do a lot of mental fitness and positive intelligence. Does a lot of work around inner child, like going back to your inner child, and one of those things, practicing self-compassion and self-love, as you asked, what do you do? One of them is going back to that 5-year-old, 6-year-old, 7-year-old, 8-year-old, and embracing them, whatever was going on in their life, and they deserve love, and we therefore deserve to give ourselves love. So I've done a lot of work around that with clients and people, and some of my poetry also speaks to my inner child, and I think it's very impactful sometimes. A lot of people really feel that. And this was just a letter. So a lot of my writing is around inner child, but this was a letter I wrote to my 20-year-old self. And I think this was the first time that I hit a kind of a depressive state. And one night I just sat and I wrote a letter to my 20-year-old self, and here it is. It's okay to be not okay. It's okay to just say, I don't know. It's okay to let it all out. Yes, it's okay to let your feelings and vulnerabilities show. Your life is precious. Your life is great. And you can be loved even if you're overweight. What you look like on the outside is nothing to the light that shines from the inside. And it's okay to let that light be your guide. Even though others' words can eat you up alive, and from yourself you feel you have to hide. Remember, how others treat you or what they say or do is most certainly not all about you. Relationships can hurt, but it takes two, them and you. It's okay to talk a lot, whether others get it or not. Never apologize for who you are. You have so much to this world to give, so shine bright, be your own star. You are you, open, you learn and grow each day. I now know I wouldn't want you any other way. Thank you very much. And I would ask anybody listening, why not write a letter to your 5-year-old self, your 6-year-old self, your 10-year-old self, your 20-year-old self, any timeline in your childhood and adolescence, and get a pen and paper or your computer or laptop and write a little note to that person that is still inside you.
Lovely. Thank you very much for that. So, lads, that's all for this month. I was going to say week again then. Thank you so much for listening. Please like, please subscribe, please comment. We really, really, really want to interact with you guys, so please leave us some comments. Follow me on all of my socials. It's Plastic Paddies Podcast on all socials. I'll put it on the screen. And also go and follow Patricia on all of her socials, which I will also put on the screen, but it's PAcoaching_for you. And I will link all of Patricia's website and stuff in the description below. So thank you so much for tuning in.
Thank you.
Take care and see you next month.
Sinead, bye.